Hi everybody, so today I want to talk to you about clay. So we will talk about what is clay, the different types of clay. I also made slides about clay through history, but I won't spend too much time on that. Animals and clay also. I will mostly focus on properties and dosages. So clay is a mineral that can be found all over the world, wherever there was or there is water. It's 15% of the Earth's crust. So there are different types of clay, different colors, and the colors depends on the minerals in the clay and especially on the iron oxide. So here you can see the composition of clay. So clay is mainly silica and aluminum. And then there are other minerals in smaller quantities. So here you can see a picture of a particle of clay. So you can see it has a layered structure, and that's this layered structure that gives to clay its absorbing and adsorbing properties. So what are absorbing and adsorbing properties? So absorbent means that it absorbs liquids like a sponge, and adsorbent means that it attracts certain substances like magnets through ionic polarization. Okay, so the surfaces of clay sheets are mainly composed of negative ions, which attracts positively charged substances. So there are many different types of clay. So here on this picture, you can see all the types of clays. So of course, we won't talk about all of these. We will just focus on the main ones, the most common ones that you can find in your health food store or online. So we will talk about the SMECTITES, the KAOLINITE, and the Illite. We will just mention the Antibacterial and Septiolites. So this is the structure of clays. So the what we call the green clay, so the SMECTITES and the Illites have three layers, two layers of silicate and one layer of aluminum. So that's what you see on the picture. In red, it's the layers of silicate, and green is the layer of aluminum. And the two-layer clays, like the kaolinite, it's one layer of silica and one layer of aluminum. So it's these specific structures that will give clay its different properties and its different powers of absorption and adsorption. So we start with the SMECTITES. So the SMECTITES are the most powerful clay, the most absorbent and adsorbent clays that we will talk about today. It has so 1 gram of SMECTITE can cover 100 square meters of intestine, and up to 845 square meters if you separate and spread all the sheets next to each other. It means that this type of clay will cover a very large area with just a little bit. So in the SMECTITES group, we have the MONTMORILLONITE. I will say it with in French because it's a French clay. It was originally discovered in France, so it's Montmorillonite. It was discovered in the French village Montmorillon in France. So we measure the power of clay with the CEC, the cation exchange capacity. Okay, this number will tell you how powerful it is. So the Montmorillonite clay is 100 mEq for 100 gram. It's very absorbent, as I was saying, and it's generally green in color. The bentonite is also part of the SMECTITE. Actually, bentonite is like Montmorillonite. It's the same thing. Actually, bentonite is just like less pure clay than Montmorillonite. Okay, so usually that's a term that is used by the English speakers, but in French, yeah, we just talk about Montmorillonite. You will find mainly two types of bentonite, the calcium bentonite and the sodium bentonite. So the main difference is that sodium bentonite is much more absorbent, and so much that it's actually it's too much for the body in some cases. Like it's so if you ingest it, If you have constipation, that's not a good idea to take sodium bentonite internally, because as it absorbs lots of water, it will absorb lots of water in your gut and will give you even more constipation. So sodium bentonite is mostly used in the industry, actually. It's not so much used for body care. It's used in the industry because of its very strong power of absorption. It's used in the industry to clean up things. It's used to fill up holes for the roads, stuff like that. So for body care, we mostly use calcium bentonite, that is much easier to tolerate. Also, if you apply sodium bentonite on your skin, it can dry your skin like way too much. So again, I recommend calcium bentonite rather than sodium bentonite. Kaolinite is another type of clay that is usually white or very clear in color. It is the least powerful of the clays we will talk about today. It's not very absorbent and it's not very adsorbent. So the cation exchange capacity of kaolinite is 2 to 10 mEq per 100 grams. You remember, MONTMORILLONITE was 100 mEq, okay? And its total surface capacity is only 10 to 30 square meters per gram. So that's the surface it can cover with 1 gram. Okay, so much less again than the SMECTITES. So it's really not very powerful, but this is an advantage if you have a very sensitive skin. Like if you want to use clay externally, and your skin is very sensitive and you don't have a very oily skin, so you don't want a clay that will absorb too much from your skin and that will dry your skin too much, then you choose this one, you choose kaolinite. Illite is a green clay also. It's actually an intermediary between SMECTITES and kaolinites. It's not as strong as SMECTITES, but is a little bit stronger than kaolinites. So the cation exchange capacity of illite is 10 to 40 mEq per 100 grams. And the total surface capacity of illite is 100 to 175 square meters for 1 gram. So illite is not very absorbent, and if you are not sure of your skin type, you can choose this one. It's like in between. So attapulgite, palygorskite, sepiolites. Attapulgite and palygorskite is two names for one same clay. Sepiolite is different but very, very similar to attapulgite and palygorskite. I won't spend too much time talking about this one because we won't talk more about this type of clay. It's just mainly used, so it has a very, very strong absorbent capacity, and it doesn't swell. So it's mostly used in the industry, actually. It's used for cat litter, for floor cleaning, and as a support for pesticide and herbicide granules. So we won't use this one for body care, except for like chemical poisoning. We will talk about that later. So this is clay and men through history. I won't detail that part too much because it's way too long, but just so know that humans have been using clay forever. It's mentioned in the Bible, God made men from clay. It's the same in the Greek mythology. Men were made from clay. It was used at the time of the Egyptians, of the ancient Egyptians. They were using it for gastric acidity and for mummification. As I was saying, the ancient Greeks were using for fractures. When they would break a bone, they would heal it with clay. All through the antiquity, clay was used for many different things, for diarrhea, skin beauty, bleeding, and so on. Here it's interesting. Galen and Marco Polo were recommending clay for malaria. And that's why clay is also recommended now with this new 19 virus that, have created so much fear for a year. So this virus is treated in some places, not everywhere, with anti-malarial medication. And that's why, clay is also used for malaria. So it also, can be recommended for this new virus. So during the Middle Ages, clay was recommended for plague, during plague epidemics. The French king Louis XIV had hemorrhoids and fissures, and he was using clay. He was drinking clay for that. So here again, you can see it was used for so many different things. It was used by the Russian army during World War I. Many soldiers were dying from diarrhea, from severe diarrhea, except the Russian soldiers, because they were protected by clay that they were ingesting regularly. And a naturopath here in France thinks that actually when we eat salt, it's actually a way of eating soil, So I thought it was interesting to notice because, it's very similar. Animals and clay. So animals have been using clay, forever. Many animals, bathe in clay, eat clay. Here, like, this is a famous example that maybe you already know. Parrots in the Amazon, they, at certain times of the year, they have to eat toxic berries and toxic plants that are very rich in alkaloids and other toxins. So to survive, to be able to eat these toxins, they also eat clay. And clay, just stop the absorptions of toxins. Same for monkeys. Clay is given to farm animals, and it reduces mortality for farm animals, especially very fragile ones like rabbits and pigs. So now we will talk about the properties and dosages. So this is a question I often get. So which type of clay do I recommend? I won't recommend a brand in particular. When you buy clay, you mostly want to find three things. Was it sun-dried, filtered? So yeah, usually it's filtered, and ventilated. So one, sun-dried, because you don't want clay to be heated in ovens, because the temperature is way too high, and this damages the clay. It reduces its power of absorption. So you want sun-dried, and also clay absorbs the energy of the sun. And you want it to be ventilated, ideally. So this is another type of filtration, ventilation, because clay is much lighter than the sand. So if you want to ingest clay, try to find clay that was ventilated so you are sure there's no sand in it. So as I was saying, it has adsorption and absorption capacities. So clay is negatively charged, and it will absorb positively charged particles and toxins. Also, clay works in mysterious ways that science cannot explain, so it goes beyond this adsorption and absorption power. As you can see here, you can pause and read what I wrote. So it's clay. It seems that clay acts like enzymes, orienting molecules in a role of biocatalysts. Jade Allègre, who is a French specialist about clay, she says that clay is kind of alive because it can differentiate the good from the bad in the body. So she says, by an unexplained phenomenon, it seems that clay has an extraordinary affinity for all that is foreign to the body and or toxic. It literally cannot stand the presence of the slightest impurity and will not stop cleaning everything. I actually wrote an article, my last article on my website is about that, but about herbs. In my article, I explained that science can explain why herbs work for this and that, why herbs, um, uh, how herbs inhibit some bacteria and stuff like that. But science cannot explain, why herbs can differentiate what is good from what is bad in the body. Why herbs will target some bacteria and not some other bacteria. Science cannot explain that. So it's the same for clay, it's the same for colloidal silver, for many natural remedies. And actually that's why they work so well. And that's why they don't have side effects or very little. And that's why they are much safer than chemical drugs. It's because they work together with life, with the body, not against it. So the antibacterial properties of clay. So clay doesn't kill bacteria or viruses. That's not how it works. Clay will absorb bacteria, viruses, toxins, and remove them from the body. That's how it works. That's why it's also so safe. I've put a picture of a bottle of colloidal silver here because you can mix clay and colloidal silver for stronger antibacterial properties. Clay is very good for gastritis. So if you have acid reflux, heartburn, clay is great. That would be my number one recommendation for people who have gastritis. Take clay. Take the bentonite or MONTMORILLONITE clay because if you have H.Pylori, this type of clay will be the best, and it will remove H.Pylori from the excess, at least the overgrowth from your stomach. And also clay will absorb the excess acidity that, give you this pain. So clay is great for gastritis. For radioactivity, so I won't detail that here because it's not an everyday issue. So you can pause on this slide if you want more detail, or again, you can go read my article. For heavy metals, clay absorbs heavy metals, lead, arsenic, cadmium, copper in excess, mercury. Here you have a story. So this happened in the 16th century. A thief who was sentenced to death accepted to be part of an experiment. So they made him drink mercury 3 times the doses that would kill one person. And so he drank the mercury and he drank clay and he survived. So clay is also great to absorb chemicals, like dangerous chemicals like pesticides, herbicides, fluoride. It also absorbs, as we said, alkaloids, tannins, and other phytochemicals, so that come from plants but that can hurt you, anti-nutrients. So here, this is something very interesting about clay because I've seen many people saying, okay, clay can just work in the gut, in the digestive tract. It doesn't go further than that. That's not true. Clay, while remaining in the digestive tract, binds with the poison even when it has already passed into the blood by a phenomenon called intestinal dialysis. That means that if you drank glyphosate or whatever, chemical, if you drank some toxic chemical and it already got into your blood, it passed your digestive tract and it's now into your blood, it's not too late. You can take clay and clay will absorb the toxins from your blood. It's great also for kidney issues, so I won't detail that here. You can pause on this slide if you want to read the details. So if you have too much creatinine or if you have gout, just know that clay is great for that too. And again, same as we just said, it will absorb these things from your blood. And it's great for gut issues, of course. This is really something that I often recommend. If you have gut infections, we talk on this channel about Candida. So it doesn't absorb fungal infections, but it will help with the toxins made by the fungi. Okay, and clay just cleans everything. It absorbs toxins, so it will help the rest of your body to cope with whatever toxins are stuck somewhere in your body. For gut issues, so it will help for allergies, colitis, bloating, gas. It will absorb bloating. It will absorb gas. Of course, for food poisoning, that's great. The other day I ate a can that was actually it was accidentally opened for I don't know how long, and I didn't want to throw it in the garbage, so I took some clay and then I ate it, and I was fine. And the day after it, I still had some, so I ate the rest of what was in the can. But this time I forgot to take clay, and I immediately felt that it was wrong, and I started to have like bloating and pain, and I immediately after that I took clay, and then I was fine. It's very efficient for food poisoning. If you are not sure about the quality of any food that you will eat, take clay right before your meal, and that will protect you. It's great for diarrhea. It's great if you have bloody stool, because diarrhea is your body trying to get rid of something toxic for your body. So you can help your body getting rid of this toxic by taking clay. Clay will absorb the toxins, and also clay will give more consistency to your stool. It will absorb the excess water, so you will have more formed stools. And clay is great to heal ulcers, any cut, any wounds. It's hemostatic, so it will stop the bleeding also. So as I said, how to choose clay: sun-dried, filtered, ventilated, no additives. It's better if it's not in a metallic or plastic packaging. So I know it's almost impossible to not find it in plastic packaging, but when you buy it, you can keep it in a glass jar, for example. Choose a local clay, because again, clay, works in mysterious ways with the body, with nature. So you need to find clay from your area. Ideally, if you can't, you can't. But if buy clay from your country rather than from another country on the other side of the planet. Also, taste different clays and choose the one that tastes the best for you. Your body is very intelligent, and what tastes good for you is for a reason. It has been shown that people who are deficient in iron, they prefer the taste of clays that are very rich in iron. People who have magnesium deficiency, they will like better the taste of clays rich in magnesium. So how to take clay? So you will find different dosages depending on which expert you talk about. So here in France, we have another expert, Raymond Dextret. I say another because I will talk about Jade Allègre. She's my main reference here. But Raymond Dextret, he recommends smaller doses, like 1 teaspoon per day. But Jade Allègre recommends much more. She recommends 300 milligrams per kilo. For example, for an adult that is 60 kilo, that will be 18 grams. So that's a big tablespoon. Sorry. So how to take clay? Never use metal. Take a wooden spoon or a plastic spoon to stir the clay in water, but don't use a metal spoon. It should not touch metal because metal disturbs the electromagnetic balance of the clay. Usually take clay first thing in the morning or last thing at night. It's also possible to take it, like 1 hour before a meal, but ideally it's better, on an empty stomach. And also you want to let clay sit for several hours before taking it. Why? Because clay needs to be hydrated. When the water molecules come inside the layers of clay, that will activate, the cation exchange, the adsorption power of clay that we talked about. So it needs to be hydrated to have this power. So it's the colloids. So colloids are small particles floating in a liquid. So it's the colloids of clay that have this adsorbing power. So I won't detail all the dosage here. You can pause again to see the dosage, or you can go on my website. But usually it's at least 1 tablespoon per day. It's between 1 tablespoon to 3 tablespoons per day. For diarrhea, IBS, Crohn's, for parasites, for chemical poisoning, it's different. So again, read the details here. But for chemical poisonings, you need much more. You need huge doses, and that's why you will not choose a clay that swell, because otherwise you might create a blockage. So you will choose a clay like Attapulgite, or you will just choose activated charcoal because it doesn't swell and it absorbs the toxins. For 19, Jade Allègre recommends 3 tablespoons, 2 to 3 tablespoons, 2 to 3 times per day. And as a prevention, 1 tablespoon twice a day, So for travels diarrhea, as soon as you get it, 1 tablespoon in a glass of water, you drink it, you let it sit for a few minutes and you drink it. And every time you have diarrhea, you repeat that. And you can also decontaminate water with clay. For external use, again, I won't give like too many details in this video, but generally you want to apply a thick layer on your skin, 1 to 2 centimeters thick. So that would be like this thick. I see too many people using like a very, very thin layer. It will work faster and better if you use a thick layer, and you want to let it sit until it dries, generally. It depends, but so you want to let it sit at least for 1 hour. And also you can apply like cold clay or room temperature clay, or warm clay poultices. So it depends where you want to apply the clay. So you need to put cold or room temperature clay poultices on feverish areas where it's warm, on inflamed areas or on the lower abdomen. And you want to make them warm if you want to apply those poultices on your organs, like your liver, your kidneys, your bladder, and on your bones. So you can warm the clay under the sun, or bain-marie, it's I don't know how to explain in English, but it's a way to gently warm up something. For skincare, it depends your skin type. So for very sensitive skin, choose kaolinite. For very oily skin with lots of acne and stuff like that, you want to choose, the stronger type of clay, that is bentonite or MONTMORILLONITE. And if your skin is in between, it's not too oily, not too sensitive, you can choose Elite. I'm not sure how you pronounce that in English. So, clay is non-toxic. It's natural, it's not toxic, so you can take it, very safely. I mean, don't worry. It's almost impossible to take too much. In some tribes in Africa, so Jade Allègre saw that. She spent lots of time with tribes in Africa and all over the world, in Latin America. And so she said that in Africa, she saw people taking up to 3/4 of a kilo of clay per day for weeks. So almost 1 kilo, I think 1 kilo is like 2 pounds of clay per day for several weeks. So don't be scared of, creating intestinal blockage with clay, because it's almost impossible, and you cannot, you know eat like so much clay that you would die. It's well, maybe it is possible. You can even die from drinking too much water, but you know what I mean. So there are rare cases of hypokalemia, but that's very, very rare. But okay, this one is important. If you have kidney failure, don't take clay. If you take medication, you need to take clay 2 hours after. You need to take the medication 2 hours after clay minimum. It's better if you wait even longer. Or you can take your medication before taking clay, 30 minutes before. Okay. And also something I wanted to mention. Many people ask the question, like, can you become deficient if you eat clay every day? Will clay absorb the minerals or vitamins or whatever from your food and make you deficient? No. There are several studies, so this is not in this video. I didn't make a slide about that, but go read my article on my website. It's all detailed there. So there were many studies made, and they observed different people all over the world. And actually, clay is nourishing. Clay will bring more minerals to your body. And in some experiments, they removed food from the daily ration diet of animals and replaced this part of the food they removed by clay, and the animals didn't lose weight at all. So again, more details in my article. Okay, I see you in the next video. Ciao.